guys, Deathscyp here from YCG, your casual gamer. Welcome to part 2 of making the blueprint system using the level blueprint. So in the last episode we created the scene, we created the logic to create the scene so that now that we interact with this cube over here, it becomes green. That would be your indicator that the checkpoint is activated, and on the other side, when you get to the other one activates and the first one is not activated anymore. So perfect logic to create a basic checkpoint system using the level blueprint. Now, if you haven't done that, maybe it'd be better to do that before you jump to this episode, but if you just want to learn, you can follow along from here. So the best way I find is to use a game instance to remember where you are inside your level depending on your scene. Let's talk a little bit about that. So when you load your game, first off, the game always revolves around the main character. So when you start programming and making little codes, the first logic would be that you should store everything inside the character. Like, let's say you have the elf, that's at 100, and you have the score that starts at 0. And let's say you want to just have those two values and you want to elaborate on those. You're going to come across a problem real quick when you just finish the first scene. So let's say you finish the first level and you're going to drag to the second level. The first problem is you're going to get is as soon as you finish this one and you load the scene over here, the problem is that all the values inside the character and the character itself is going to reset. So if your health was at, I don't know, was at 20%, suddenly they're going to be back to 100. And you might not want that for your game. So what's the best way to store your information? Now, this is where the debate starts. A lot of people, if you wanted to, you could have everything save inside a save state. So as soon as you finish a level, you take all the information over here and you send it to your save game. And when you load the next level, you can send them back to the player. I find that it's much easier if you use the game instance as an alternative, because the game instance is always running in the background. So whether you are in the level or outside the level, in your character screen, wherever you want inside the game, as long as the application is running, the game instance is there. So you can store everything in there instead of having it somewhere else. And that's where it comes into play. So what I like to do as a practice is I keep everything stored inside the game instance that I want the game to remember, and when I'm ready to save the progress, let's say the character is going to save and go back to the screen, then I send everything to the save game, and when I reload the game, I can just get all this information, bring it back to the game instance and to the character, and they're all in harmony. Now let's practice those in the engine, making a checkpoint system. So first off, we're going to make our game instance. So right click over here, click on blueprint class, and inside the all class we're going to go get game instance, and you select this one over here and open it. Call it my game instance. That's how I like to call it, because it's going to be easier to get it from the drop down menu. Now before we go further, we're going to have to add it to our game. So inside the project setting and the edit on top, you're going to go into maps and modes. And right away, you're going to see over here that game instance class, you got to add your own. I don't know why it's already there. We just created this together. But initially, you're going to see this game instance because the engine is going to offer you one, is going to give you one by default. And if you want to, you can use this one. It's the same thing as any other game instance. I prefer to make my own, and you're going to see why in a second. So I changed it to my game instance. Close this. Save everything, and let's move on. So if you open the game instance over here, so like we just spoke about before, I'm going to want to add a variable over here that we are going to keep track of. And we are making a game, a checkpoint right now system. So we're going to make a new variable, and you guessed it, we're going to call it checkpoint. And we're going to change it into a byte, compile and save, and leave it at 0. That's fine for the program right now. Save everything, and you're done with whatever you wanted to store inside the game instance. Now let's open the persistence level, And the first thing I like to do, just like the my character, inside the last episode, we just did a cast so that we could go get the information at all time. We're going to do a cast to my game instance. And this is where it gets fun because I called it cast to my. As soon as I write my, it's going to go get my game instance. And there's nothing else that you could be casting on. The difference if I just go with the initial one, if I write game and then I have ints and then I have to write pretty much everything just to get it in the drop-down menu because there's so many things related to game. That's why I like to call it my game instance. It really narrows down the search right away to game instance. From the object, we're going to do get game instance, and it's going to be this one over here. And then we're going to change it into a variable. Call it my game instance or whatever floats your boat. Compile and save, and you're done with this part. So now we have our little logic over here that we created in the last episode. Whoops, this is our little testing scene that I was doing. And we're going to add on to this. So right now when you overlap the checkpoint box CP1, which is over here, this one, as soon as you overlap this one, it becomes green, and this one is going to turn red if it was on or not. Same thing goes for this one, which is the CP2, so checkpoint 2 is this one. Now inside the logic over here, we're going to have to create a check so that the checkpoint is going to update accordingly to the scene. And to show you what I meant by my little drawings over here and that I did on the screen, we're going to use a variable I created inside the level blueprint and match them with the game instance. So over here, I have my checkpoint system. We're going to use this to make the first part of the logic. So we're going to control drag it here. We're going to equal it with 1. And we're going to be making a branch by holding B and left clicking inside the scene. Control drag the true to the true over here and go like this. Oh, actually not connected to this. The false is going to be connected to this. And what this is going to do is that it's going to check you are overlapping the first checkpoint. Is the checkpoint activated at 1 yet? Is the value 1? Because the checkpoint 1 should be according with the checkpoint value 1 because that's the first checkpoint. If it's false, we're going to alt drag the checkpoint over here and just set it to 1. And just go like this. And if we go again inside the box and they see that the checkpoint is already equal to 1, we're going to do a print string and just write just CP, short for checkpoint, is activated already. There we go. That way it's going to send a message to the player that the checkpoint is already activated and you can't reactivate it for no reason. For the text color, I like to put it into a bright green and you're done with your logic. So technically, this should work, right? So let's grab our, let's make a little program. I'm going to delete this over here. And let's make our own little program that's going to reset our scene. So let's say I'm going to right click and press the F key. And whenever you press the F key, you want to open level. So that's going to reset your scene. You're going to open level and we're going to go grab the name of the levels. The level we're in is the first person example map, which is stored over here. Just to make sure context sensitivity is right, I do F2 and Control C, the title over here, bring it into the menu over here. Make sure you have it all selected and there you have it. So as soon as I press F, it's going to reset my scene. Now, just to see if the program works, we're going to go and get the checkpoint value over here and just do a print string as soon as the level begins. So Evan began play. We're going to do a control drag the checkpoint and we're going to do a print string again. That's going to show the value of the checkpoint. So that means that if the program should be remembering the new checkpoint value, it should show the right text on top. So if I put it for 5 seconds and it's going to show me the value. So as soon as I start the scene, if I press play, you're going to see on the top left, you're going to see 0. All right, this is the value right now. And just to make sure that this is accurate, when I change it to 1 over here, we're going to do another print check, another print string that's going to put it to this screen just so that we know that the value changed. And just connect this like that. So if I press play, Now it says it's 0. I go to the first checkpoint over here. I go. Now the value is up to 1. You can see it on the top left of the screen. And if I go back inside, checkpoint is already activated. And this is it. Now this is where the problem comes. If I press F to reset my scene, the value is back to 0. And I restart exactly at the middle. The middle is normal. We didn't do any logic to teleport over there. But you can see that it wouldn't work because the value is still at 0. It hasn't been stored anywhere. So now this is where we have to bring in the game instance. So just control drag the game instance in. The logic over here is already good. So let's just do a get checkpoint. Bring it here. Delete this over here. And then instead of having it set here, we're going to go again with this over here. Set checkpoint. And we're going to set it to 1. Bring this over here. We're going to keep this in check. The same logic, just to show you guys that it works. Control C, Control Save. And inside over here, instead of having this being checked, we're going to have the game instance now. Get checkpoint. And let's have it connected over here. Now let's see if this logic works. So now we just did the same thing, but with the game instance. So now the value will be changed to 1 in the checkpoint, and we want to see if it's still going to be 1 the next time we get inside the scene. So if I press play, it says 0 top left, just like before. I get to the first checkpoint, and you're going to see it changed to 1. Now if I press F, the value is still 1, but I just resetted my level. But it still remembers that the value is 1. The problem is, when you look on the right, the checkpoint doesn't know that you are there, because if it had known, the color would be green, and then we're going to add the logic so that your character is there as well. So that's where the next part of the logic comes into play. We're going to go and add in our scene, we could do that, a target point. We're going to add it over here. This one is going to be CP1 location. And then we're going to alt drag a copy over here to the second one. And instead of this, we're just going to call it CP2 location. Save everything. Again, this is just a simple way of making it, but it's not the most accurate way. The best way would be using the blueprint that we are going to learn in the third and the fourth part of these episode. But just so you have enough food for thought, actually. Now that we created this targeting system, we're going to make our logic behind it. So now let's go back inside our editor. We're going to do the same thing over here. You can get rid of this print string over here. And we're going to do the same thing for the bottom part. So the best way to do so is to Control C, Control V, this over here. And you can see already you don't have to do a cast every time. That saves a lot of time in the end. Send this to 2, here equal to 2, and you're done with this. Connect these together. Now the logic should work for the appropriate checkpoint. Now we need to make the character move, and we need to keep the color green when it's going to be the right checkpoint. And that's going to happen when you first load the scene over here. So let's get rid of the print string, and let's just do a equal value over here to well, we could do it to 0. So 0 being, if it's equal to 0, then nothing happens. That means your character didn't get to the first checkpoint, so therefore you restart exactly where you are, where you started. Then you can do a Control C, Control V. Let's get this equal to 1. And you connect the true over here. No, sorry, the false. Here. True doesn't do anything. Now if it's equal to 1, we're going to carry out the logic. So we're going to go grab our this over here and this. Control drag, Control click each. Go inside the level blueprint, right click, and make a reference to the 2. You're going to get world location of the sprite component, and we're going to do a teleport. Whoa. Oh, it's because I have both of them selected. You can bring this one down because that's going to be good for the second one. And from here, instead of the target, The target is going to be our character. So control drag the character over here, and you got this. So for the get where location, where do you want the character to be teleported is to those new location we just set. So the first location being this target point over here, and the second one being this one, so that your program is smart enough to understand where you're going. So if it's true that it's equal to 1, you want your character to be moved to checkpoint 1. Also, you want the first cube, so if you go back inside your logic over here, you want this cube over here to be green and the other one to be red, just to make sure that everything works well. Let's put everything here and let's test this out, because if it does work, then you just have to copy the same thing for the other one, which we'll do together, but at least we'll know that the logic is working. So now we're going to get to the first checkpoint over here, activate it. As soon as it's activated, press F to reload your scene, and you can see that you restart exactly where the first checkpoint is. So now we know the logic works. So wherever I am in the level, I press F, I'm back to the first checkpoint. So the checkpoint system works. So now we can do the same thing for the second checkpoint. So we can just keep the this over here, but you can copy all this over here. No, actually no, we're just going to copy this part, because it's the part underneath is for the next. So if it's false, that means it's equal to 2, because it's not equal to 0 and it's not equal to 1. So for our logic right now, it's perfect that way. So we want the character to be teleported to the other cube, and we're just going to go grab the logic over here of the second cube. So if it's equal to 2, Control C, Control V, bring it here. Don't mind all the program that's around it. It's all my garbage from when I was practicing it. And there you have it. Even if you want to, you could add this nice little sound that is going to be in the description below if ever you want. But let's just put it in. I'm not gonna put it here actually. I'm gonna put it over here when you activate the checkpoint. So I'm just gonna copy this just to clean up the program. So if you activated the second one already, let's do that. And we're gonna add, whenever you do the checkpoint, we're gonna add a place sound 2D. So 2D being wherever you are, it's going to sound right away. And we're going to go get our sound effect that you are going to be able to get online. It's called checkpoint. And let's just put it over here. So having it selected, I'm going to add it with the arrow over here, Control C, Control V, and you're done, your checkpoint. Little simple checkpoint that we just created together. Let's see if I press play. I'm inside my scene. I go to the first checkpoint, or second one. I activated it. I go around running. I die. I press F. I restart exactly over here. And if I go over here, can't activate it twice. If I get to the other one, then again, the same thing. I go around and I die. Then I get respawned at the first checkpoint. So I hope you like this. Again, this is just a simple way of making a checkpoint. I know it's long when you want to really explain everything, but you're going to see that just understanding this, it's tenfold. You're going to be able to create all kinds of things just understanding the game instance. And I hope this helped as much people as I have. And in the next episode, we're going to be working, making the same logic, but with a blueprint. So that way you can just drag it and drop it wherever you want in the scene, and it's going to work right away. So see you next time, and have a good